Greetings students. This is fifth online lecture of nuclear physics. In this session, we are going to discuss about mass distribution and nuclear reactors. After this lecture, you will be able to understand about how mass of fission fragments are distributed, the possible reactions, fission fragments decay into stable elements, nuclear reactors, function of a nuclear reactor, and its applications. In the last class, we have discussed about chain reaction and atomic bomb. We have discussed about fission fragments released during the chain reaction and also about various possibilities of fission fragments in each fission. When a fissionable material like uranium absorbs a neutron, a compound nucleus is formed. For example, if uranium with mass number 235 is bombarded with slow neutrons, compound nucleus uranium-236 is formed. Within about 10 power minus 15 seconds, that is femtoseconds, within femtoseconds, this compound nucleus, which is in a highly excited state, breaks up into two fragments. These emitted fission fragments are also in excited states and as such emit neutrons and sometimes alpha particles. Near the end of this de-excitation period, gamma rays are emitted and a new pair of nuclei is obtained. These are also still neutron rich and unstable against a negative beta decay. This decay continues until the fission fragments reach stable element. The chain reaction takes place in various radioactive nuclei such as uranium with mass number 235, uranium 238, plutonium 239, etc., which breaks into two fragment nuclei of intermediate mass numbers. However, in a very small number, that is less than 1 in 10 power 4 fissions, in a very small number of nuclear fissions, the nucleus breaks up into three fragments. The fission into more than two fragments is extremely rare, and so that let's concentrate on two fragments cases. Before going to the mass distribution, let's discuss with an example on mass yield in uranium-235 fission. So mass yield in asymmetric fission. Let's consider the following reaction. Uranium with mass number 235 is bombarded with a slow neutron or otherwise thermal neutron. Then it is converted into uranium-236. Uranium-236 is a compound nucleus which undergoes a nuclear fission and splits into fission fragments, barium-143 and krypton-90, along with the three fast neutrons, and a tremendous amount of energy is also released. The stable isotope of barium with maximum mass number is barium-138. Similarly, the stable isotope of krypton with maximum mass number is krypton-86. Whereas in our case, we have obtained the fission fragments as barium-143 and krypton-90. These are radioactive isotopes of barium and krypton, and in these cases the neutron number is very high. So these are neutron rich isotopes of barium and krypton. So these are unstable elements. So barium-143 and krypton-90 are unstable elements. So to get rid of excess neutrons, these fission fragments must exhibit much beta activity. Experimentally, this is confirmed by the following beta decay observations. Let us now discuss about two of these equations. So in the first equation, barium-143 with atomic number 56, which undergoes beta decay series. So barium-143 emits a negative beta particle along with antineutrino, and it is converted into a new nucleus. It is lanthanum-143 with atomic number 57. So a neutron emits a beta particle, that means a negative beta particle along with antineutrino, and then converted into a proton. So the proton number is increased here. So we have got a new nucleus called lanthanum-143 with atomic number 57. Again, this lanthanum-143 is an unstable isotope of lanthanum. So this is also undergoes a beta decay process, that means beta emission. So after emission of beta particle, negative beta particle, this is converted into cerium-143 with atomic number 58. Again, this cerium is unstable and it is also neutron rich, so it emits a beta particle. Then it is converted into praseodymium 143 with atomic number 59. And again, this praseodymium is also unstable and it is also neutron rich isotope. So this is again undergoes beta decay. So negative beta particle is emitted and then it is converted into neodymium 143 with atomic number 60, and this is stable isotope of neodymium. So barium-143, a neutron-rich radioactive unstable fission fragment. This is undergoing beta decay series and then it is converted into a stable element. So until it reaches stable isotope or stable element, it is continuously emitting beta particle and the proton number is continuously increasing, so that new nuclei are formed continuously. So that until it reaches a stable isotope, this is undergoing a beta particle emission. So similarly, in the case of krypton 90 with atomic number 36, this is also a neutron rich element and it is also radioactive. So this is also undergoing a beta particle emission and then the neutron is converted into a proton. So a new nucleus is formed since the proton number is increased. So the atomic number 37 and 90, that means it is a rubidium. So rubidium 90 with atomic number 37 is formed. It's a new nucleus, but it is still neutron rich. So this is again undergoing beta emission and it is converted into strontium 90 with atomic number 38. And strontium 90 is also unstable radioactive isotope. So this is again emitting beta particle in order to convert to yttrium 90 with atomic number 39, and again yttrium is also neutron rich, so it is emitting a beta particle in order to be converted into zirconium 90 with atomic number 40, and here zirconium 90 is a stable isotope of zirconium. With this picture, let's discuss about fission of uranium-235 into barium and krypton unstable elements and its decay series. Initially, a slow neutron projectile bombarded with uranium-235 nucleus and a compound nucleus uranium-236 is formed. Then it gets splitted into the isotopes of barium and krypton unstable elements. In barium, there are 6 stable elements. So before that, actually here the slow neutron is bombarding the uranium-235 and it is forming a compound nucleus, and this compound nucleus is unstable. So within femtoseconds, it undergoes a nuclear fission process and it emits barium and krypton as seen in this animation. So now we have got 2 fission fragments. Those are barium-143 and krypton 90, and these are also radioactive and these are unstable neutron rich elements as we already discussed. So in barium there are 6 stable elements and most abundant is barium 138, that is stable isotope of barium. But the fission fragment has the mass number of barium 143 and atomic number 56, which indicates formation of a neutron rich element. So the unstable barium 143 should emit negative beta particles in order to be converted into a proton. So as discussed in the earlier equation, the isotope barium undergoes 4 negative beta decay to become one of the 5 stable isotopes of neodymium 143 with atomic number 60. So now let's see an animation. So here the barium 143 emits 4 beta particle to become neodymium 143 with atomic number 56. It's a stable isotope of neodymium. So since barium 143 is a rich in neutron number, it emits the beta particle in order to be converted into neodymium stable element. So when the beta particles are emitted, the proton numbers are increased since the neutrons are converted into protons after emission of beta particle. So similarly, in the case of krypton 90, the most abundant stable element is with mass number krypton 84. But in the fission fragment, we have got krypton 90, which is neutron rich, so that krypton 90 undergoes 4 negative beta decay to become stable isotope of zirconium 90 as seen in the animation. Here we can see how a neutron becomes a proton. So you can see a neutron at the top left corner. So this neutron is emitting a beta particle, negative beta particle, and then along with the antineutrino, and then it is converted into a proton. So by the emission of beta particle and antineutrino, a neutron becomes a proton as seen in the animation. In this process, the mass number of the element won't be changed, but the proton number will be increased by 1, so that a new element is formed. Now let's discuss about decay series of one of the fission fragments, barium 143. Barium 143 is a neutron rich isotope as discussed. So barium 143 emits 1 beta particle, so that a proton number increased to 57 while the mass number is same. So that barium 143 becomes lanthanum 143 with atomic number 57. So most abundant stable isotope of lanthanum is lanthanum 139. So this element is also neutron rich and hence emits 1 beta particle to convert a neutron into a proton. Now lanthanum 143 becomes cerium 143 with the atomic number 58. In cerium, among 4 stable isotopes, the most abundant is cerium 140 with atomic number 58, and hence cerium also has more neutrons and lack of stability. So cerium undergoes beta decay and converted into praseodymium Pr 143 with atomic number 59, for which one stable isotope with mass number Pr 141. So again undergoes a beta decay to become neodymium 143 with the atomic number 60, which is one of the 5 stable isotopes of neodymium. In a similar way, krypton 90 also undergoes 4 beta decay to become zirconium 90 as discussed. As discussed earlier, uranium 235 fission fragments and its beta decay series are given in these equations. This fission equation is only one of the many ways in which uranium 235 nucleus undergoes fission, nuclear fission. There are more than 30 modes of fission, in each of which a different pair of fission fragments is formed. The last 2 equations mentioned above are examples of a fission chain. There are about 60 such chains known experimentally. In each fission fragments starts a radioactive beta minus decay series, which are called fission decay series. So in each fragment which is started a radioactive beta minus emission decay series, and these series are called fission decay chains. Let's now discuss about the mass distribution of fission fragments for different fission chains of uranium-235. The two fission fragments can be almost any one of the nuclides lying in the center third of the periodic table. The frequency with which the various nuclides appear among fission fragments varies within very wide limits. The fission yield, that is Y of A, is defined as the ratio of number of nuclei of mass number A formed in fission to the total number of fissions. So percentage of fission yield, which is n with suffix A divided by n with suffix T into 100, that gives the percentage of fission yield. Here n with suffix A is known as number of nuclei of mass number A formed in fission, and n with suffix T is total number of fissions. When this percentage of fission yield is plotted against mass number A for fission chains of uranium-235, we get a mass distribution of fission fragments. The mass distribution of the fission fragments can be most conveniently shown in the form of a fission yield curve. So from the fission yield curve, the maxima lie near the mass numbers 95 and 139, which implies that the fission is highly asymmetric, and the yield is minimum for mass number 117, which corresponds to symmetrical fission. That means the fission fragments with equal masses. This figure indicates yield curve for thermal neutron fission of uranium-235. The yield curve shows two peaks, one at mass number 95 and the other at mass number 139, indicating that these are the most probable mass numbers for the fission fragments. Hence, the yield curve shows that the mass distribution of the fission process is highly asymmetric. This asymmetry in the mass distribution is a characteristic of thermal neutron fission. The tendency towards symmetric fission is associated with fissions that require higher excitation energies. In case of neutrons of higher energy with 14 million electron volt, the uranium-235 symmetric fission is about 100 times more probable. As the energy of the bombarding neutrons increases, symmetric fission becomes increasingly probable, as seen in this figure. Symmetric fission means fission into two fragments of equal masses. For higher energy neutrons, the two peaks merge to give only a single peak, indicating that symmetric fission is the most likely event for high energy neutron fission. When we increase the bombarding neutron energy from 14 million electron volt to 45 million electron volt, the two peaks start to disappear and merge around 31.5 million electron volt, and thereafter we get a single peak which indicates more probability for symmetric fission at higher projectile energies. In this figure, we can observe various asymmetric mass distribution for thermal neutron fission of uranium-235. As discussed earlier, there are more than 30 modes of fission, nuclear fission, with different pairs of fission fragments are possible. Also, there are about 60 decay series of chains found experimentally. Now let's discuss a very few possible fission fragments of uranium-235. One such possibility is cesium-137 and rubidium-95 fission fragments with 4 fast neutron emission and 191 million electron volt energy release. Also, molybdenum MO98, xenon 136 with 2 neutrons and energy release. In another possibility, xenon 140 and strontium 94 with 2 neutron and energy release. Most of the fission fragments are not stable as emitted. Cesium has one stable isotope, cesium 133. In rubidium, among two isotopes, most abundant is rubidium 85. Molybdenum 98 is relatively stable isotope among 7 stable isotopes of molybdenum. In xenon, among 7 stable isotopes, xenon 132 is stable. Strontium has 4 stable isotopes, among which strontium 88 is most abundant. About barium and krypton, we have already discussed enough. So out of these fission fragments, except molybdenum 98, all are radioactive and undergoes decay series. Xenon is converted to cesium, then barium, then lanthanum and cerium 140 stable element. Similarly, strontium 94 is converted into yttrium 94 and then finally zirconium 94 stable zirconium isotope. This figure shows mass distribution in chain reaction. We have already discussed the chain reactions in the earlier classes. This schematic illustrates a chain reaction of uranium-235 in which various fission fragments are produced. A few possibilities are shown here. Here, slow neutron bombards with uranium-235 which becomes compound nucleus and undergoes fission chain. In the chain fissions, you can observe various fission fragments as indicated. Barium 141, krypton 92, strontium 94, xenon 140, krypton 90, barium 143 and rubidium 95, cesium 137. Other than this, there are more possible asymmetric fission fragments for slow or thermal neutrons. When the energy of the projectile increases, we can observe symmetric fissions as discussed earlier. At the end, you can notice the neutrons produced in the second generation. In the first case, it is 2, then 3 and then 4 neutrons are produced in cesium rubidium case. Also in third generation, you can notice several possible neutron emissions depends upon fission fragments. So on average, we can say that there are 2.5 neutrons produced in the chain reactions. So in these equations, different fission fragments and number of neutron emissions are shown. Also, the energy release varies in each cases, depends upon the fission fragments and mass differences. In cesium rubidium case 4 neutrons, xenon strontium case 2 neutrons, barium krypton case 3 neutrons are emitted. There are several other possible symmetric and asymmetric fissions, depends upon the energy of the incident projectile, that is neutron energy. Some of the fission fragments may have as low as a mass number of 72 or as high as 158. The asymmetric mass distribution of fission fragments involves the shell structure of nuclei and the existence of magic numbers. Corresponding to the peak mass number 95 and 139 yields the atomic numbers which are 42 and 57. But the atomic number value for minimum yield, that is mass number 117, is atomic number is 50. That corresponds to a magic number. Hence its nuclear binding is very strong and corresponding to a closed nuclear shell. So necessarily, therefore, the fission yield would be minimum. Thus, asymmetric fission is more probable for uranium. So at the thermal neutron fission, when we have the thermal neutron fission, the more probable is asymmetric fission. More probable fragments are asymmetric fission fragments. But when the neutron energy is increased, there are possibilities for symmetric fission fragments. Nuclear reactors. Now let us move on to the next topic. It is nuclear reactors. Nuclear reactors are the modern day devices to produce electrical power. In olden days, we used coal, wind, hydro, biogases, and solar energy to generate power. Even now, we use the same system in order to generate electrical power, but in these methods, the power production is limited. Also, heavily depends on availability of natural resources. We need to have sustainable and eco-friendly approach to produce electrical power for the growing population. Nuclear reactor is actually a device in which a fissionable material called nuclear fuel or fissile material is arranged along with other materials, which acts as slowing down agents for the fast neutrons called moderator and a controlling device in a structure in which a self-sustaining chain reaction could be maintained under controlled conditions. In this session, we will discuss more about nuclear reactors, its functions and applications. The principle used here is a self-sustained controlled nuclear fission chain reaction. In the case of atomic bomb, it's uncontrolled chain reaction. About controlled and uncontrolled chain reaction, we had a detailed discussion in the last class. Millions of fission fragment nuclei, neutrons, gamma rays, alpha and beta particles are emitted during the nuclear fission reaction. A very large amount of energy is liberated within an extremely small interval of time, within microseconds. So hence it is not possible to direct this energy for any useful purpose. But in a nuclear reactor, the chain reaction is brought about under controlled conditions. Let's now discuss about the types of nuclear reactors. Nuclear reactors are of two major categories. Those are homogeneous and heterogeneous nuclear reactors. In homogeneous nuclear reactor, the nuclear fuel and the moderator are uniformly mixed together as a solid mixture or a liquid solution of a uranium salt in the moderator is used in the nuclear reactor core. In this type, fast neutrons produced or collided with moderator atoms immediately after their production and lose energy. When uranium as fuel and graphite as moderator are used, attaining critical state is questionable. However, when heavy water is used as moderator, it may sustain a chain reaction. Heterogeneous reactor, in the case of heterogeneous reactor, nuclear fuel elements and moderator elements are arranged in a geometric pattern or lattices. The fissionable material may be in the form of rods, plates or hollow cylinders. The other types of nuclear reactors are fast fission reactors, intermediate reactors and thermal reactors. In the case of fast fission reactors, most of the fission occur at high neutron energies and no moderators are used in these reactors. Fuels are enriched uranium-235 and plutonium-239. In the case of intermediate reactors, fission is induced by epithermal neutrons. What is epithermal neutrons? In the case of epithermal neutrons, the neutrons having their energies between thermal and several kiloelectron volt. And the last one is thermal reactors. In this case, most of the fission are induced by thermal neutrons and natural uranium can be used as a fuel in this case, and most of the reactors are of this type. The controlled chain reaction depends upon the geometry of the fissile material system and assembly of fissile material along with moderator and control rods. In order to carry out controlled chain reactions, the multiplication factor has to be maintained as 1. That is, K value should be equal to 1 in order to maintain critical or steady state inside the nuclear reactor. The multiplication factor depends on the geometrical arrangement of the elements and the dimensions of the lattice cell. The multiplication factor K, which is equal to eta, epsilon, P and F. K depends upon these four factors. This relation is known as four factors formula. Here eta represents absorption coefficient of neutrons. That is the ratio of thermal neutrons absorbed by two uranium isotopes and total number of thermal neutrons absorbed in the system, including those in the uranium isotopes, multiplied by fast neutrons. So this ratio is multiplied by fast neutrons. So eta can be represented as sigma with suffix F divided by sigma with suffix S into the fast neutrons, mu. So here sigma with suffix F represent the thermal neutrons absorbed by two uranium isotopes and total number of thermal neutrons absorbed in the system, which indicates sigma S. So sigma F represents thermal neutrons absorbed by two uranium isotopes. Sigma S, total number of thermal neutrons absorbed in the system. So here system refers the uranium isotopes, all non-uranium nuclei such as moderators, control rods and impurities. Epsilon represents fast fission factor, whose value frequently lies between 1.03 to 1.1. The neutrons produced in the fission process are fast neutrons which have energy higher than fission threshold energy of uranium-238. So some of the fast neutrons cause fission of uranium-238 with consequent increase in the number of fast neutrons due to the fast neutron fission of uranium-238. This increase of fast neutrons could be taken into account by a factor called fast fission factor. So here epsilon represents fast fission factor. When the fast neutrons move through the moderator system, most of them are slowed down due to the collisions with uranium-238 and the moderator nuclei, but from a finite sized reactor core, a fraction of these fast neutrons will leak out and be lost before being slowed down to thermal neutrons. This is called leakage factor for fast neutrons. Other than these leakage neutrons, the remaining are the available neutrons in the system. P represents resonance escape probability. During slowing down process in the moderator, some of these slowing down neutrons will be captured without fission in uranium-238 nuclei, forming uranium-239, which then decays into neptunium-239 through negative beta emission and then to plutonium-239 again by beta minus emission. The fraction escaping resonance capture is called as resonance escape probability. However, again some of these thermal neutrons diffuse through the system without being captured by uranium-238 and uranium-235 nuclei and eventually leak away from the system. This can be countered by a leakage factor for thermal neutrons. So there are two leakage factors. One is leakage factor for fast neutrons. Another one is leakage factor for slow neutrons or thermal neutrons. So out of these leakage factors for fast and thermal neutrons and resonance escape probability, the remaining neutrons are available for further fission. So this thing we have already discussed in the chain reactions, the controlled chain reaction or self-sustained chain reaction in the last class. So there are possibilities for the leakage of fast neutrons and leakage of slow neutrons, and resonance escape probability, resonance escape capture, that means resonance capture of uranium, resonance capture of neutrons by uranium 238. So the remaining neutrons are available for further fission. So only a fraction of thermal neutron is captured by uranium 235 nuclei, while the rest are absorbed by moderator and other structural materials. This fraction is called as thermal utilization factor, F, small f. Adjusting the geometry for best F factor and P factors is a tedious process. So we have to compromise F and P factors while constructing the geometry of the nuclear reactor. By designing the geometry of the system and construction of the nuclear reactor, these factors can be fine-tuned to obtain the multiplication factor of 1, which is suitable for propelling self-sustained controlled chain reaction in the nuclear reactor. So if the chain reaction is put under control, after some time a steady state is established. Under a steady state, the rate of energy production also attains a constant level. Such a device in which energy is released at a given rate is known as a nuclear reactor. Nuclear reactors consist of 5 main elements: the fissionable material called fuel, moderator, neutron reflector, cooling system, and the safety and control systems. Now let's discuss the 5 elements one by one. The fissionable substance. The commonly used fissionable materials are uranium isotopes, uranium with mass number 233, uranium 235, and uranium 238. These are the commonly used uranium isotopes. The thorium isotope, thorium with mass number 232, and the plutonium isotopes, plutonium 239, plutonium 240, plutonium 241. In natural uranium, only 0.72% abundance of uranium 235 is found. So in enriched nuclear reactors, more than 0.72% uranium 235 isotope are being used. So now let's discuss about moderators. The function of the moderator is to slow down the highly energetic neutrons produced in the process of fission of uranium 235 to thermal energies. So in the fission, in the nuclear fission of uranium 235, the fast neutrons are produced, and the role of moderator is to slow down the fast neutrons or highly energetic neutrons into a slow neutron. And the commonly used moderators are water, natural water, heavy water, graphite, beryllium, etc. are used as moderators. Ideally, moderators have low atomic weight and low absorption cross-section for neutrons. Nuclear reactors are also classified according to the moderating materials used to slow down fast neutrons. The neutrons are slowed down by elastic collisions with the moderator nuclei. For best results, the moderator nuclei should be of the same size as neutrons, and the capture cross section of the moderator nuclei should be as small as possible. Thus, water could be used as moderator, but it has a large capture cross section for neutrons, and therefore heavy water is most frequently used, because the role of moderator is to slow down, not to capture the neutrons. So it has to slow down the neutrons, fast neutrons, and it should not capture the neutrons. So next element is neutron reflector. By the use of reflectors on the surface of reactors, leakage of neutrons can be very much reduced, and the neutron flux in the interior can be increased. Materials of high scattering cross section and low absorption cross section are good reflectors. And next one is cooling system. The cooling system removes the heat evolved in the reactor core. This heat is evolved from the kinetic energy of the fission fragments when they are slowed down in the fissionable substance and moderator. Materials employed to remove away this heat are called coolants. The coolants may be liquid as well as gases. Liquid coolants are water, heavy water, and liquid metal coolants such as sodium or sodium potassium alloy or mercury. Gas coolants are air, nitrogen, helium, and carbon dioxide CO2 are the most commonly used coolants. The coolant of heat transfer agent, those are water, steam, helium, carbon dioxide, air, and certain molten metal and alloys, is pumped through the reactor core. Then through a heat exchanger, the coolant transfers heat to the secondary thermal system of the reactor. Now let's discuss about the control and safety systems. The control systems enable the chain reaction to be controlled and prevent it from spontaneously running away. This is accomplished by pushing control rods into the reactor core. These rods are of a material, that means boron or cadmium can be used as control rods, which are having a large neutron absorption cross section. So it can quickly absorb the fast and slow neutrons in order to stop the reaction, or it can, when the control rods are pulled up, it can increase the reaction possibilities. So these rods absorb the neutrons and hence cut down the reactivity. By pushing in the rods, the operation of the reactor can be made to die down, and by pulling them out to build up. So when we pull out the control rods, we can build up the reaction, and if we want to stop the reaction or if we want to slow down the reaction, we can push the rods down to the uranium fuel rods. So the safety systems protect the space surrounding the reactor against intensive neutron flux and gamma rays existing in the reactor core. This is achieved by surrounding the reactor with massive walls of concrete and lead, which would absorb neutrons and gamma rays. The reactor core contains fuel rods and graphite moderators, which are arranged in a geometrical pattern. This schematic shows fissile fuel element assembly. So we are going to discuss about the fissile fuel assembly. The commonly used fissile fuels are thorium-232, uranium-233, uranium-235, uranium-238, plutonium-239, and plutonium-241. These are the commonly used fissile fuels. Each single fuel element assembly is composed of 100 to 150 cylindrical fuel rods inside the fuel element. And each fuel rods are of uranium pellets, natural uranium oxide pellets. So these pellets are inserted into a metal or alloy tube, mostly zinc alloy tube, and the metal tubes are welded together as a fuel bundle or fuel bundle. So it can be welded together in order to form a fuel bundle or fuel element. So these fuel rods are welded together in order to form a fuel element. So fuel rod dimension may be of 5 meter length and diameter of 23 centimeter, the fuel element dimension. So pellet size inside the fuel rod could be 9 millimeter and pellet height may be 11 millimeter. So one pellet could produce 5000 kilowatt hour of energy. So the fuel rods are combined together by welding and a fuel element could be produced, and each fuel element dimension may be of 5 meter length and a diameter of 23 centimeter. The fuel rods are surrounded by, that means the fuel elements are surrounded by graphite moderators as shown in the illustration. So the fuel elements are also immersed in water or heavy water moderators. So here the fuel elements are immersed into the heavy water or otherwise water as a moderator. In other case, the fuel rods are embedded into the graphite moderator or otherwise the fuel elements are surrounded by graphite. So fuel rod and moderator assembly is like this. So each single fuel element consists of 100 to 150 fuel rods, and inside of each fuel rod the uranium or the fissile material uh, are made up of pellets, and these pellets are inserted into the fuel rods, and these fuel rods are welded together in order to make a single fuel element. This is about the uranium fuel rod assembly. And this illustration demonstrates the geometry and working of a nuclear reactor. These are the parts of nuclear reactors. So we can see inside the nuclear, there is a nuclear reactor chamber, and this reactor chamber is made up of thick concrete wall. And inside the reactor chamber we can find a steel pressure vessel and a steam generator. So these two could be found inside the reactor chamber, and external parts are turbine, condenser, and few more parts are there that we will discuss in the next slide. So here we can find inside the reactor chamber we can find a steam generator, reactor core. So the reactor core is made up of steel pressure vessel, and there are thermal neutron columns through which we can supply the thermal neutrons, and you can also find two experimental paths, so through which the neutrons generated by this nuclear fission process could be used for scientific research and other irradiation purposes. And inside the reactor core you can find control rods, and at the edges you can find graphite reflectors. It is mentioned by white stars, and the brown star indicates uranium rods or otherwise uranium fuel elements, and this is uranium 235 and uranium 238. It contains the pellets, and each uranium fuel element consists of 100 to 150 small diameter uranium rods or fuel rods are embedded into or welded together in order to form each fuel element. And water or heavy water or liquid metal could be used as moderators inside this steel pressure vessel chamber or otherwise reactor core. So the next part is the pressurizer, steam generator, and pumps. So these pumps could supply the cold water, and inside the steam chamber you can find a heat exchanger, and there is a pressurizer, and from the steam steam generator, the steam is supplied to the turbine and then to the condenser, and again it is back to the steam generator. Now let's discuss about the function of this. So nuclear reactor consists of three main components inside the reactor core. Those are fissile fuel elements, moderator, and control rods in a steel chamber. We have discussed about fuel elements, moderators, and control rods in the earlier slides. Mostly heavy water and graphite are used as moderators. Moderators are slowing down kinetic energy of the fast neutrons, which are emitted during the fission process. The third and most prominent part of the reactor core is control rods. Control rods are commonly made of boron or cadmium rods. Control rods absorb the fast neutrons that slows down the reactions. A steady output of electrical energy must be obtained by inserting and removing the control rods precisely inside the uranium system. Thermal neutrons are creating nuclear fission in uranium, causing fission fragments and new fast neutrons with the release of energy. The thermal energy produced will be transferred through circulating liquid or gas to heat exchangers through primary loop. Moderators also acts as coolant. The reactor core is made up of robust steel. There are three important core components in the nuclear reactor chamber concerned. Those are reactor core with pressure vessel or pressure tubes, pressurizer, and a steam generator. These are the three core components of the reactor chamber. Let's see the entire working of nuclear reactor. Inside a reactor chamber, reactor core, pump and heat exchanger that generate steam are there. Thermal neutrons supplied from the thermal neutron columns, which are bombarded with the uranium, which undergoes fission by emitting fission fragments. 2.5 neutrons on average and release of energy. These neutrons emitted are fast neutrons which are slowed down by moderators such as graphite reflectors and heavy water by elastic collisions. Some fraction of fast and even slow neutrons are leaked out. Some are resonance captured by uranium-238. The remaining small fraction of thermal neutrons are available for further collisions with uranium-235 to induce fission. The control rods, by pushing down and pulling up, maintain controlled reaction at critical or steady state. The fissile rod surrounding water gets heated up during nuclear fission process. Now, the released thermal energy during fission process are taken away by coolant gas and liquids surrounding the uranium fissile fuels to the steam generators. At the same time, cold fluid is pumped inside the reactor. The heat exchanger inside steam generator is connected with water from the condenser unit. The water in contact with heat exchanger boils and steam is generated. The high pressure steam generated is fed to the turbine unit that drives the turbine effectively. The cooling tower supplies cold water to the condenser unit that cools down the steam passing through the turbine. The turbine and condenser unit form secondary loop. Now the neutrons generated in the reactor core can be utilized for research purpose through the experimental path lines. So this consists of reactor core, primary loop and secondary loop. So the other parts we shall discuss in the next slide. Now let's discuss the remaining function of nuclear reactor. The external portion of nuclear reactor consists of turbine and condenser in the secondary loop. Cooling tower as a third loop which dissipates excess heat. The steam is cooled down to water and supplied to the steam generator. In this way, excess heat generated in the reactor core could be minimized. Inside the reactor core, the water temperature will be about 300 degrees Celsius. However, water does not boil since the pressurizer maintains the water pressure constant at around 160 bars. The turbine is connected to an AC generator which generates electricity by electromagnetic induction principle. The voltage is stepped up by a transformer and the electrical power is transmitted to distant places. The electrical power is received at sub-power stations and then directed to distribution substations. At distribution substation, the voltage is stepped down and from there the electrical power is transmitted to the houses, industries and commercial units. Cooling water, usually from adjacent river or from cooling tower. The water circulating systems are always kept separated. Water in the primary loop never leaves the containment building. This water is highly radioactive since it's been in direct contact with the fissile fuel rods. The water in the secondary circulation system is used to drive the turbines and it's not radioactive. The cooling circulation system provides cool water to condense the steam in the secondary circulation system. Now, one of the reactor type is power reactor. So in this power reactor, the heat generated in a nuclear reactor is used for producing power in a nuclear power plant as seen in the earlier slide. So a quantity of enriched uranium in the form of pure metal of solution of a soluble salt in water constitutes the center of the heat energy source. A large quantity of heat is produced in the fission process. The cadmium rods regulate the temperature to a predetermined value. If it is desired to bring down the temperature, the cadmium rods are pushed down further as to absorb more neutrons. If the temperature has to be raised, the cadmium rods are pulled up a little. A fluid is circulated through the shielded reactor and heat exchanger. The hot fluid converts water into steam while flowing through the heat exchanger. The steam produced runs conventional turbines to produce electricity. So this is the function of power reactor. And the next one is breeder reactor. In a thermal reactor core, uranium-235 fuel is surrounded by a blanket of a fertile material like uranium-238, which can be converted into fissile fuel. Reactors of this type are called fuel producing reactors. The reactions are as follows. Uranium-238, which is absorbing a thermal neutron, and then it is converted into uranium-239 and release of gamma rays. This is followed by uranium-239 and it is emitting a beta particle since it is neutron rich, and it is converted into neptunium Np239 with atomic number 93. And again this is unstable, so it is again now converted into plutonium-239 with atomic number 94 by the emission of negative beta particle and gamma rays. This process of producing one type of fissionable material, plutonium-239, from a non-fissionable material, uranium-238, is called breeding, and the reactor is called a breeder reactor. The breeding reactions for the fertile material, thorium-232 with atomic number 90 or thorium-232 with atomic number 90, which is absorbing a neutron, thermal neutron, and then it is converted into thorium-233, the compound nucleus, and this compound nucleus emits beta particle in another 22 minutes, and then it is converted into protactinium Pa233 with atomic number 91, and this is also unstable, and this is undergoing the negative beta particle emission in 27 days in order to be converted into uranium-233 with atomic number 92. Its half-life period is 1.6 into 10 power 5 years. So now let's discuss about the applications of nuclear reactors. Nuclear power, actually the nuclear reactors are used in the production of electrical energy as discussed in the power reactor and in the schematic. Production of radioisotopes is also possible with the nuclear reactors. So nuclear reactors are useful in producing large number of radioisotopes. To produce radioisotope, a suitable compound is drawn into the center of the reactor core where the flux of neutrons may well be more than 10 power 16 per meter square per second. Sodium-24 is manufactured in this way. So sodium-23 is hit by a neutron which gives sodium-24 isotope. And the nuclear reactor is also useful for the scientific research. Reactors produce a number of radioactive materials needed for research purposes. The reactors provide a huge source of neutrons. Using these neutrons, several useful radioisotopes have been artificially produced and several nuclear reactions have been studied. We may also study the effect of neutrons on biological tissues. Nuclear reactors may also be used to study radiation damage. We have come to end of our discussions on nuclear reactors and mass distributions. So students, so far we have discussed about mass yield, how mass is distributed during the nuclear fission process, symmetric and asymmetric fission fragment distributions based on the energy of neutron projectiles, more probable fission fragments for the thermal neutrons, that is asymmetric fission fragments, about nuclear reactors, principle, geometrical pattern, factors behind the geometrical pattern of nuclear reactors, types of nuclear reactors, core components of the nuclear reactor chamber and the nuclear reactor as a whole, working function of the nuclear reactor, power generation, power reactors, breeder reactor and applications of nuclear reactors. Hope you would have understood the concepts. In the forthcoming lectures, we are going to discuss about nuclear fusion, accelerators and applications. Stay tuned to learn those concepts. These are the reference books used. The book references are Modern Physics by R. Murugesan and Kritika Sivaprasad, Elements of Nuclear Physics by M.L. Pandya and R.P.S. Yadav. Have a great day. Thank you.